and really nervous and really awed. First of all, the service was absolutely beautiful. I was able to follow almost everything. It is so similar to the Coptic Orthodox Church. It is absolutely amazing to know that our sister churches are so connected and we are raising our families the exact same way. My parents immigrated from Egypt when I was 4 years old, and we were raised in Chicago. I am a professional. I have 3 children. 2 are adults, 1 already married, and my daughter is going off to college in the fall. And the one thing that I've noticed about parenting is no matter how intentional it is, no matter what we try to do, we get so sucked up in the world. The one thing that I always tell my Sunday school kids and my own children is, as a Christian, we are all servants. We're all called to serve. But what happens from Sunday to Sunday, there's a big gap, and we forget who we are. Even as adults, we forget who we are. So I'm going to talk to you in 15 minutes just about today's world, a little bit more concretely, and how it is shaping who we are. The mystery is, who am I? I say Satan is the biggest deceiver. He tries through the media, and this has been happening for many, many years, even before social media. It's just another avenue for him. But it is a tool to be sucked into the world so that we are identified with the world instead of being identified through Christ. So through social media, we get to see all of these incredible photos. Everybody's posturing. I'm not going to post photos of my ceiling leaking. I'm not going to be posting photos of when I'm upset with my child. But I'm going to be posting photos of the great meal that I have or the vacation that I have. And we are setting up models for our children that is probably not accurate. And then my friends get to see who I am, but they don't see my full life. Kids at the same time, the minute in District 203 in Naperville, the minute now I think from kindergarten they're given an electronic device. So they are taught to be constantly connected. So now we are connected 100% of the day. And the reason I say Satan is the greatest deceiver is, even in church, sometimes I'll check my emails. Did I get an important email from a client that I missed? My daughter says, oh, there's somebody who needs my help, I need to check in. We're constantly checking in, and we're using benevolence as an excuse as to why we're checking in. We're saying that we're checking in because I've got work. We're checking in because I've got to check in on somebody. Whatever reasons, we are deceived. But the truth is, we need to feel connected. We are going through an identity crisis. So the who, what, where, and why. The technology, it's at our fingertips. We live in an instant gratification society. We live in the here and we live in the now. Truly, our only 2 ways to conquer this is information and prayer, living a life of prayer, because when you know who you are, you no longer have that identity crisis. You now know you are connected to Christ. You see yourself through Christ. You don't see yourself through the world. You don't need to feel good about yourself because you're posting a great vacation, because you don't need that accolade. You've got that peace within you. Okay, so what's new? There's a lot new. So much technology, even from just 5 years ago. Search engines, smartphones, Facebook, Skype, Instagram, BuzzFeed, Twitter, Snapchat, Vine, Hulu, Netflix, all kinds of apps, YouTube, iTunes. There are a few inappropriate ones that I did not mention, but it is so important for us to know what is at our fingertips as kids, as teens, and as adults. And information is our best advocate for that. The social issues that we're facing, and this is compiling it. We're facing a lot of social issues, and we see that all over Facebook, and we see it all over Instagram. Redefinition of marriage, gay rights, terrorism with online images, cyberbullying, inappropriate content, legal marijuana, drugs, self-harm, depression, suicide. Our very faith as Christians is under attack. I have a few friends who are born-again Christians, and they tell me that I am not a Christian because I don't show tolerance. I don't show love. I dare to say that I don't believe in gay marriage. And I was painted as somebody who was homophobic, somebody who was unkind, somebody who was not loving, somebody who's not a Christian. I said absolutely not the truth at all. I'm not here to judge anybody. But even through social media, when we're connected, even in a good way, our own faith is attacked. But we're too connected. This is the issue. We are too connected. We are too guided by the opinions of others. How do we conquer that? Where do we begin? What can we do? So I talked about it for a second, and I'm talking really fast because I'm trying to finish up in 15 minutes. I'm so sorry. The first place to begin is the identity problem. We are going through an identity crisis, and this is what we have to ask ourselves. I tell the kids in my Sunday school class, who do you want to be? Who do you want to emulate? Who do you relate to the most? If the answer is not Christ, then we're going through an identity crisis. And because of that identity crisis, we're going down the wrong slippery path, and anybody else is going to attract us in. That next party, that next whatever, that gaming opportunity, whatever, it's going to steer us down the wrong path because the world is going to tell us how you've identified yourself as Christ is kind of weak, and you need to identify yourself with the world because it's more glammy, has more promise, and has more riches and money and this and that. It's a big lie. Again, Satan the big deceiver. So where we need to start truly is we need to just truly shore up our faith. The Coptic Church, the Orthodox Church is amazing in its riches. These saints, the veneration of the saints, the sacraments, we have so much here. We have treasures, and we turn ourselves away from these treasures. We have to hang on to them. So that's what we have to find out. Who do we want to be? Who are we? How do we want to be perceived? Social media is separating us from ourselves, from our family, from Christ, and we think we want to get more connected through social media, and it's actually doing the opposite. It's making us very lonely, very isolated. We no longer have true conversations. When you go to a restaurant and you sit at a table and everybody's on their iPhones or whatever, and nobody knows how to have a face-to-face conversation. It's really very difficult, and it's sad to see, and everybody is guilty of it. One thing that I talk about a little bit, and I'm only going to touch on this for like 30 seconds, is the developing brain of teens. And the reason I'm going to delve on this for 30 seconds is teenagers go through a struggle. Teenagers go through a struggle where their brain is developing. And you could see where it's from blue and green, from green and yellow all the way to blue. Their thinking skills, their prefrontal cortex is not developed yet. So they cannot think on their own. So what they do, they look for experiences. That's why teens are the most vulnerable. They look for experiences. Everything is very emotional centered. Everything is very peer directed. That's why they're risk takers. Because of the adrenaline, they're kind of like on a natural high. They're looking for that feel-good sensation. That's why when they've got a home life where they're not getting that positive accolades, they're going to look outside for that stimuli, okay? And that's why they're easy to turn to outside peer pressure or social media. Let me stop for a second and say, when you take your phone and you look at it, if you think about every single form of communication from the beginning of time till today, TV, newspaper, movies, the written word, the Bible, books, everything, it's all now in your iPhone. The accessibility is great, but it's really scary. So if a teenager is not having a great relationship at home, where they're feeling disconnected or at school, and they need that connection where they feel good because they don't have the cognitive skills to think through their decision-making process, and they don't understand actions and consequences, they're going to seek out whatever gives them the greatest feeling very quickly, okay? And I talk a lot more about this. It's an hour talk that I base by a neuroscientist from Rush University. But anyway, we need to be careful about that. Because if teens are dealing with this, we need to make sure that we know why they are doing what they're doing. Because if we understand it, we're less apt to yell, we're less apt to shout, and we're less apt to shut down. We're more apt to say, hey, my son's name is Anthony. Hey, Anthony, what's going on? Let's just go out for dinner. Let's just put work away. Let's go out for dinner. Let's see what's going on in your life. I do that with my daughter, Sophie. She loves to yell at me all the time. That is how I know. That's how I take her temperature. That's the thermometer in the room. When I see that she is really scattered and really upset and really quiet, then I know she is getting her reassurances from her friends, her advice from her friends, and it's all through social media. And that's when I get really, really scared, and I try to pull her back into church, my own conversations with her, and reassure her, reaffirm, create that positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement. We talked a little bit about how teens make decisions, so we just need to keep that in mind, and we need to be cognizant of it. But it's not just teens, so this is the struggle. Teens have, I don't want to say an excuse, but a reason for why they go through what they go through. We as adults need to be there to help them and guide them, but we need to be their number one advocates, cheerleaders, role models, and just to be mentors and servants. It is so important, and it's humbling to know that me as an adult, I have to serve every single child because I've got to help them. I really have to help them. But the problem is, I need to help myself first. We as a society, we've been taught to be connected instantly, even as adults. If in my professional work, if I don't respond to a client in 10 minutes, they think I'm no longer professional. And even when I'm driving, I don't text, but I will ask my daughter if she's sitting next to me, can you respond to this text? Or I'll try at a stoplight voice text. It's awful. I've been conditioned, and I need to uncondition myself and step away from social media, step away from text messages, because it's getting me into trouble. Facebook, I have this urgent need to wake up in the morning and check Facebook. Why? I don't need to. It's okay. But somehow if I don't, I feel vulnerable. I feel like I've made a mistake in my life. Maybe I've offended friends because I haven't wished them a happy birthday on Facebook. Maybe I've offended friends because I haven't said what great trips they're taking. But that's not true. That's not reality. Satan is painting a false world that lives in a box. We are putting ourselves in a box. This box is breaking down the structure of the family. We are no longer living in reality. We are living in the realm of fiction. So, yeah, okay. I always say this is how powerful the media is. I look at that and immediately I want to run to Starbucks. And I know everybody could recognize that red cup in many ways. Maybe you remember the red cup controversy from a couple years ago when everyone said that there was a war on Christmas. Or maybe you just love the whipped cream or the coffee. But either way, Starbucks has created a multimedia campaign to make sure many of us are addicted to Starbucks. The media is doing the same thing, by the way. There is a book that I read years ago called Mooks and Midriffs, and it was based on a PBS documentary through MTV. So all of these large conglomerates, by the way, TV stations, movie companies, they all own clothing stores, everything. They want to make sure that your child, from the time they're little, is the best consumer. So I say we have become tools of the media because it's all about consumerism and the almighty dollar. Facebook is about consumerism. At the end of the day, this is what's really scary. Social media is about consumerism. They want you to go out. There's so many ads all over social media. They want you to go out and buy the next greatest and latest, because if you don't buy the next greatest and latest, you're no longer worthy, away from the message of Christ. So if we understand that we are tools of the media, we can kind of revolt against it and shut the media down. Say the media cannot define my identity. I get to define who I am through Christ. Christ defines who I am. The Holy Spirit lives in me and helps me with that guiding. Social media, yes. Is it separating me from Christ? It absolutely is. Do I make time for prayer, or am I too busy making sure that I am liked? Many of us go to bed scrolling through social media. Many of us wake up in the morning scrolling through social media. We get our identity through social media. This is really, really, really scary. And by the way, when I give a talk, I'm talking about myself first before I give to anybody else. Because I recognize my own weaknesses and my love of being connected, because I'm a people person. I love knowing what's going on with other people. I love engaging. So this is where Satan's the great deceiver. He said, oh, Neveen, interact on social media, you're connecting with people. You're lifting people up. False. Because eventually I'm being drawn into negatively. Not feeling good about my own life. Seeing how everybody else is living their glam and I'm not living mine. I'm no longer part of Oprah's message of living your best life. It's a fallacy. I end up ignoring the church, the sacraments, because I'm defining my life through social media instead of through the church. Positive parenting, by the way, this is scientifically proven. Positive parenting predicates the development of the teen brain. So in other words, the parent structure, the parent influence is a much stronger influence than peer pressure. Shocking, I know, but it's true. When you have a very involved family and very involved family structure and church structure, your child is going to think twice about, am I going to hurt my mom and dad? Am I going to disappoint them? That's one thing I've always told my kids. Before you leave the door, you're representing me. Now, have they failed? About 100 million times they've failed. Absolutely they've failed. But we're here for them. We've got to be that strong force. The kids are going through a developing brain. Our brains are matured. Let's be there for our kids. But let's recognize our own weaknesses and pull ourselves out and be more present in our children. My daughter yelled at me the other day because I was at a stoplight and I'm texting a client who's in the middle of a crisis. Because everything's a crisis. And I go, Sophie, don't yell at me that way. She goes, Mom, you're ridiculous. Get off your phone. At a stoplight, she's yelling at me. And I'm very well aware. Try to be a careful driver. Very well aware. But our kids are watching us. They're getting their modus operandi from us, who they are. Because they have nobody else to relate to. They want to relate to us. They want to know that we love them. They want to know that we are in the moment, we are present for them. The bottom line is, positive influence can change a family life. Dr. Dobson, I love Dr. Dobson. He writes many great books. Parental pressure definitely is stronger than peer pressure. I'm almost done, I'm sorry. One of the things that I always say, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he grows up, he will not depart from it. So let's become more dynamic. Let's encourage our kids. Let's embrace them. Let's find out what they love, what they're passionate about, sports, arts, sciences, etc. Game night, simply put the phone down and walk away. And then I will leave you with 2 verses that I love. But the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. Galatians 5:22 and 23. Another one of my favorites, and I say this to my kids, therefore be imitators of God as dear children, and walk in love as Christ has also loved us and given himself for us as an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet, smelling aroma. I love that in the church we use that literally, the sweet smelling aroma. Let us be that sweet smelling aroma of Christ. And those of you that are older like me remembers the slogan, like Mike, I want to be like Mike, with Nike. Remember that? Nike with Michael Jordan. As children of Christ, we want to be like Christ. That's who we need to emulate every single day, not just on Sundays.